Okay, well, welcome everyone. We want to get things kicked off here. My name's Ginger Bell. I have Matt Coles with me, and one of the things we're going to do while we're getting started is you should let me know if you can type in the chat box at all. Um, and I am going to upload into the chat box our files that we're using for today. And then also, um, I want to know how many of you have been on our other sessions before.
I have been. I've
You
been
have?
on.
Matt, have you been on all of them? I think you
I
have.
have been on. I have been on all of them.
Awesome. Okay, and you guys let me know if you can type into the chat box. I think sometimes it doesn't let us, but I'm going to send over what we're going to use today. Okay, so those are the two files that are in there that you should be able to access. One is the slide deck that Matt and I are going to go through, and the other is our entire planning guide, which is what we've been going through for the past several months. So I'm not seeing anyone typing in the chat. So I don't know, are you guys, if you're not able to maybe tap in the chat, maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, I think we had that issue last
Last
time.
time, yeah, Zoom had that issue there. So if you do have questions as we go along today, go ahead and just raise your hand. Sherry, I'm going to mute you. And then if you guys want to mute yourself real quick, that way we're not getting any feedback. Okay, so if you do have questions, raise your hand or unmute yourself. And we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot we're going to cover today. I want to make sure I am recording this. Yes, I am. Okay, so we started this session back in January. Matt, was our very first session that we did. We did an overview then of what we'd be covering. And it's going through everything you need to do as far as planning for your business, building that business plan. And so rather than just doing a 1 hour webinar where we did, okay, guys, go do this, we actually broke it into each segment. And so the first segment was creating your mission, your vision, and your core values. And so two pieces on that, and you can go back. We're going to send a copy of the recordings. We're going to also send all the materials. So if you're joining us for the first time and you can go back and do this, then this is what that looks like. And filling that out. So going through these areas and really answering those questions. You know, Matt, I was just listening to a video the other day, and it was with John Maxwell. And John was talking about um, the process that your brain is linked from your hand and specifically your thumb, which is interesting, to your brain as far as memory and creativity. And so the physical act of writing, of actually answering these, not just typing them, but writing, actually commits what you're doing to memory, which is interesting to me, right?
It's funny that you say that because I was just having dinner with a colleague, and we were talking about all this fancy new stuff that is out there to take notes while you're in files or you're in meetings, right?
Okay.
All this AI that's
AI
out
stuff,
there.
yeah.
Not just a recording of it, but it really tells you like who was talking and it summarizes it for you and it gives you action plans and all that stuff. I'm like, that's great, but it probably is going to end up like being like a million photos on my phone. They just sit there, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't do anything. I record the meeting and then I don't do anything with it because I didn't write it and I didn't, have to transpose any of it. So pretty interesting fact about that. But yeah, I mean, this really started, Ginger, this whole series because I think you and I were talking about when I made the move over to FirstFunding. I talked to a lot of people that want to move from broker to banker. And one of the things that I really captured, like the first 6 months I was here, they were like, "Well, I want to move from broker to banker because I want to grow and I want to recruit and I want to add and I want to, add LOs and I want to add support staff and all this other stuff." And I said, "Well, that's great. Like, take me through what that looks like to you. Like, tell me, paint the picture for me so I can see what your vision is in 3 to 6 months." And quite honestly, not a lot of people had a vision. And when I asked them, and even, deeper level question of, well, why would anyone want to join your organization? Like, what's the reason? Like, why do people want to come work for you? They didn't have that written down anywhere. And so it was just one of those things where I'm like, Ginger, and thank you for putting pen to paper on this type of stuff, because really at the end of the day, this is a fantastic series that you can go back at almost any time you're trying to take on a new opportunity. It doesn't have to necessarily be a business. Maybe it's a goal, maybe it's whatever you want to do. But this step-by-step action plan has been really a great eye-opening series for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So go through that. And the idea of having this, just to reiterate what you're talking about, Matt, is it establishes trust and loyalty. And so your purpose and creates that to where people have a sense of who you are, of what you stand for. It also, for your guides your decision making, and it unifies your team. So as you're growing your business, it provides that ability to really grow your team because they know what that is and what that means. And
Yeah, I think the example I gave in the very beginning was, can you imagine if you went to go work for like Apple or Ford or any other company and they didn't have like a mission statement? And I would almost assure you that probably 90% of my current customers don't have a mission statement written down anywhere,
yeah,
right? Something that attracts and kind of just keeps you on course for what you're trying to accomplish.
exactly. And so when you go through this, I mean, take the time. It's very powerful. Take a Saturday, go to a coffee shop, print this, we have everything in there and fill it out. And put some time into it, some thought into it, put your heart into it. And when it gets completed, and here we have a completed example and what that might look like. My mission is to help families achieve home ownership by providing transparent, client-focused mortgage solutions. My vision is to be the most trusted mortgage advisor in my community, known for education, integrity, and outstanding service. And I will achieve this by living out these core values: integrity, financial education, customer first mindset, and accountability. So it's powerful. And, it's like, but don't just copy this. I mean, lean into yours. If there's a niche that, if you provide to veterans, if you, work with, providing to first time home buyers, whatever that is, think about that. And then the next part we got into was section 2. And so that's your targeted goals and objectives. And so, I always say a goal is a dream with a deadline. And so, having an idea of what those goals are, what that looks like. And Matt, now more than ever, in where we are with our landscape right now in our industry, it's important to know what those goals are. And we went into this at depth as far as not knowing what those goals are, but how are you going to achieve those goals? What are the activities you need to do in your business each and every day in order to do that? I'm doing a lot of speaking on leadership lately, Matt. And I know we did collectively the leadership book last year. But one of the things in putting together the content for leadership, and that might be an interesting series for us to work on next year as well, is leadership. But one of the things is, in terms of leadership, is being able to have an idea of not just what your goals are, but what your team's goals are and what activities they need to do to reach those. And in the workshops that I'm delivering, I'm using 4 different books, but one of them is Atomic Habits. And so, in Atomic Habits, it gets into what are the key core habits that you need to focus on in order to reach your goals. And I'm combining that with another book, which is by Dan Sullivan, which is 10 times is easier than 2 times. And he talks about focusing on just those core, again, those core things that are going to move the needle. So having that idea as far as where you're going, it's not important unless you have an idea of how you're going to get there, right? So we spent the time going through that, and then what those 6 months goals look like, and not just professionally, but personally as well. I think it's important to have those in there. For you, you wanted to get into being a better golfer, right?
Well, we don't need to talk about that right now, but
Oh no.
I appreciate that. And no, I did, right? And I signed up for lessons and I'm taking it, and it has gotten better. I have gotten better. But one of the things, Ginger, that we did talk about when we did this, right, is my previous career was always so big on annual goals. And I hated annual goals. I just it didn't motivate me, right? And I felt like almost like, hey, you tell me where interest rates are going to be, and I'll tell you what my goals are, right? And over the last couple of years, I started to evolve to 2 month and 6 month goals. I can't plan a year in advance. It's just not in my DNA. I don't find it motivating to put annual goals out there for work. So taking like while we have written here 6 month goals, if your attention span, for lack of a better term, is 2 months or 3 months or a week, whatever it might be, something that holds you accountable. I never felt held accountable to annual goals, but I do hold myself accountable for the shorter term goals. And so I just, you have some leeway to be able to fix this and adjust it to the timeline that you want to fit, right?
Yeah,
And because we kind of know in our industry, we live and die by interest rates sometimes, and that's not the only thing that breeds our success, but it does have a big part of it. And so, you'll have different goals if rates drop in 6 months or they go up in 6 months. But if you kind of have an idea of what you're trying to work on for the next 2 to 3 months, whatever it might be for you, that was always a more palatable, taking a bite out of the elephant to say.
exactly. And then, of course, when you're creating those goals, to make sure that they are SMART goals. So they're specific, they're measurable, they're aligned with what you have in mind of what you want to reach. They're realistic. So, like you say, if you can't do a year, 6 months, do a month. Start on a month. And then time-based. And I think that's the thing that people miss out on, Matt, is having it time-based. Because if you don't have a deadline, then you're not going to have something to work towards. And so, in my opinion, having that deadline is everything. And
Yeah, the deadline is important, and also, Ginger, the reality of the goal, right? And
right.
I'll never. One of the conversations I had with a loan officer that was moving from broker to banker is that they wanted to hire 15 loan officers in the first 6 months that they opened. Have you ever hired one? Why don't we start off with one, right? Let's start off with a realistic goal of one, okay, or two, whatever you want to. But sometimes I feel like people set goals that like someone thinks that they want to hear, right? Oh, in my business, hey, I want to hit, X number of originations. Okay, that's great, but you've never even come close to that. So why don't we get it to a realistic, something that we can, because I'm a big believer in celebrating success,
Right.
right? There's no reason to have a goal to hit it and you go, oh, that was too easy, or oh, 2 months in, I'm never going to hit that goal, right? It's just you got to celebrate your success. And so, yeah, the timeline is important, but also the reality of you actually achieving that goal is, yes, you should reach for the stars and everything that you read in the books when you were a kid. Definitely, but have in career, if you're looking at this, have something that you can actually achieve.
Yeah. And have the daily plan. If the goal is one thing, but how are you going to get there? It's like if you're planning a trip, and honestly, there's some studies that have been shown that people spend more time, Matt, spending planning a vacation than they do planning their life. And you think about it, you're going on vacation, you're going to research all the places you're going to go, you're going to get, what maps you're going to take if you're driving, where you're going to go to see it. Spend that on planning your life. And so having that daily plan, when I first started out as an account executive and I had no territory whatsoever, then my daily plan was to get into 10 offices. And that was that. And so that I would just always make sure it's like I was getting into 10 offices, and that's what I was doing. And then once I started building my clients, well, I didn't need to get into 10 offices because I had clients, but every Friday, that was my cold call day. And my goal every Friday was to get into 10 offices and to reach 10 new people, and stay committed to that. Stay committed to that, because those little daily activities help you reach those goals. So
Yeah,
stay
whatever.
committed,
Yeah, whatever your widget is, right, that you're selling or you want
right?
to have, right? You got to back into the number, right? Manufacture what the process looks like to get that widget and then start at the very genesis of doing it. You and I both know that if you want 5 closings per month, you better be taking more than 5 applications per month. And you better be making, having more than 5 appointments and 5 meetings per month and making more than 5 phone calls a month. Five does not equal five all the way through, right? There's an attrition that comes with the process of everything that we do, and start with what does it take to manufacture X, and then back into what it needs to be for X, right? And so if your goal is 5 units, it probably takes 10 applications, 20 meetings, 50 phone calls. That's, I mean, just whatever that number looks like, you got to back into it.
Exactly. So then the next session, we talked about branding and positioning. And this is different from marketing. And a lot of people don't recognize this. And the reason we did this before, and this was all done in an order that makes sense for your business planning, beginning with who you are, your mission, your vision, your core values, getting into your goals, then getting into your branding and positioning. And having a core as far as what that is. Instagram used to be a closed source in terms of searches, and they just changed that in the last few weeks, where it's open source. And so your brand and who you are is important in everything that's happening right now. So we spent an entire session on questions about you, about your business. What is the story behind your company name? And for most of you who are on this call, you're non-delegated lenders, you own your business. If you're a loan officer, you don't have that company name, create your name. Build your brand. If you're doing, business in North Carolina, what is that? Buying a home in North Carolina. We did branding. I did branding for a client one time that was in Austin, and their branding was Love My Austin Home. And so, whatever that is, make sure that you have an idea about who you are, because if you don't know who you are, then your clients are definitely not going to know who you are. So spend the time on building your brand, right? And then we spent a lot of time on this too, Matt, about who is your dream client. And that was the next session that we went into. And we spent quite a bit of time. I think this was an aha moment for a lot of people when they went through this, because I think you got a lot of emails back from attendees saying, wow, this is like the most powerful session I've ever been through, right?
Yeah, with that, it was, and I go back to something that a former colleague of mine said, uh, we were selling reverse mortgages, right? That was one of the aspects that we had. And he always had this slide. It makes me smile to this day. I said, "Do you like working with senior borrowers?" Question mark. That's a very important thing if you want to sell reverse mortgage. But then the next slide was, "Do senior borrowers like working with you?" Right?
Ah, yeah.
And it always works out the same, right? Like if you are annoyed or agitated by, I don't know, you don't want to deal with first-time home buyers and the questions that they continuously have, right? If it gives you agita or you just get annoyed with that, like that's not your ideal customer. And so, I mean, yes, you should probably figure out a way to make that work, but that's not your ideal customer. So, don't present yourself as a first-time home buyer guru,
Right.
if that's your angle. And it's okay, right? I mean, there's a million different ways to get a loan and or be successful in business. You don't have to be everything to everybody. You just need to be genuine to yourself and what your passions are and what gets you out of bed and really wants to make you work and do business on a regular basis, right? And so I think after that session, a lot of people had reached out to me, and they said that they had never thought about what kind of customer they want to attract at all. They had never thought about it. And when they put pen to paper, all of a sudden they started going back and looking at the marketing and the branding that they were doing, and none of it matched what they were trying to attract.
Yeah. And again, that's why we had this in this order. So fill this out, print it off, fill it out. And do it in the order that we have it in: your mission, your vision, your target goals, your branding, positioning, your ideal client profile. Then you can get into your marketing strategies and implementation. And so many people just do number 5 and say, okay, I need to do some social media marketing, or I need to send an email out. And so we spent some time on going through, the SWOT analysis. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? Not only for you, but your competition. What is your competition doing? What are they doing well? What are they need to work on? And then, combining that with your vision. So putting those together. What does success look like this year? What things do you need to do to make it a reality? And what can you do to improve your current plan of action? And truly having a plan of action. When you get into marketing, you have so many, and it's almost too much, to focus on. So pick one social media platform if you want to just focus on one or two, or I believe in just posting on all, because there's, people that you can follow and all. Some people think you need to have special Instagram content and special. It's like, what, just put it out there. You're not looking to be an influencer and have, thousands of followers. You just want to be top of mind, and you want to be relevant, and you want to be out there. So those are things to do. The other thing, Matt, I'll say is, um, use and leverage your database. So you should have a CRM. You should have a database. You should be marketing out to both your real estate agents and your past clients, as well as your prospects. And you should do it. Some people ask how often. Honestly, every week. And you should be giving them valuable content. And it can be just, here's 3 tips you need to know, or, here's something in your area. If you're a certain area, say you're in, Dallas, Texas, then, here's the things that are going on in Dallas, Texas in August. You can send something out to real estate agents saying, here's the top 3 real estate trends in Dallas. You can use AI, which, by the way, Matt, our August webinar is going to be on AI. So we're going to talk about some of these tools. You can use AI to help you write about some of those things. But really, on your marketing, have a plan. I think that's important.
Well, in a very simple, and I know we talked about this in that session, is first of all, be searchable.
Yes.
If I review probably 30, 40 applications on a monthly basis
Right.
for people that want credit lines, right? And they're coming to us asking like for millions of dollars. If I can't find you, that's a problem,
Yeah.
right? Because what happens if you can't find you when you get my money? That's one thing. Two is it's just weird. It's weird in this day that you're not findable on a searchable website or anything like that. And the easiest one is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can customize your your URL on LinkedIn to make it very easily able to find you and or your company.
Yeah.
Um, Two is going back to the CRM. One of the things that I've really tried to encourage my sales team to do. Well, first of all, I'm a fragile person. I'm a fragile male, as most people are. Most males are. I'm very fragile, so I need constant feedback about how good I am. And so I actually keep a
Totally.
folder of, I call it my hero folder. And
Uh,
it's just comments about like, hey, you really helped me here, or I really appreciate when you did this. And it's feedback that I searched out, like, hey man, like if you get a second, can you please just, fill out the survey or say something good about how we were able to resolve this problem. It's not really very focused on me. It's mostly about the support staff I have and the company that I work for. But all that becomes very useful when I have a challenging customer and or someone who doesn't know exactly who I am. I said, hey, by the way, I got 3 or 4 competitors in your market that actually filled out a survey for me. I'll extract their names. I'll just say, this is the feedback that they gave about, FirstFunding and or the experience that they had, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. And it's dated. Some of it's very dated, but some of it's like 3, 4, 5 years old, but I'm still going to reference it back and say, hey, by the way, this is what your competitors are saying about us. And that kind of stuff can be used in your marketing on a regular basis. And one of the things that I know we don't do very well as an industry is we do not ask for feedback. Uh,
Hmm.
it's really a big challenge for us. We don't get positive feedback, and there's a few examples of people that do, and they plaster it all over their social media and get testimonials from their past customers. So
Yeah.
that's a very big easy way to do it.
Yep. So those are the areas we covered. And you want to make sure that you're creating um, all of those things, and then giving yourself that accountability. So here's an example: to ensure I stay on track, I'll schedule a monthly review to assess progress, adjust my strategies as needed, and I will also find an accountability partner to keep me focused. And these are things that can help you to do that, to keep you focused on all of the things that we talked about. This is in a year. This is an example of something that you can create as far as accountability. My mortgage business is thriving with a steady stream of referrals. I've expanded my client base to include investors, first-time buyers. I've hired a loan processor to improve efficiency, and I've built strong partnerships with real estate agents. And so bringing those together, putting all of those things, how you can do that, how you can identify those key strategies, how you can create those plan of actions. And these are getting into those areas. How are you going to build your business? So you have your business plan, but how are you going to take your business to the next level? And those are things you need to look at, whether it's hiring a virtual assistant, whether it's expanding into new, markets by partnering with other real estate agents, whether it's by creating an online educational series, whatever those things, what are you going to do to expand your business? And then creating those accountabilities. I'll schedule a meeting with a real estate agent to explore referral partnership, and how often. So those are the things that'll help you, and commit to the plan. And so, it's accountable. It's the accountability is you. So in creating a plan and leaning into a growth plan, having those weekly progress check-ins, and maybe if it's just you, then just yourself. If you have an accountability partner or a mentor, then who that is. Track your results and put them into a planner, put them into a CRM, and then write down your accountability strategy. So having an idea of what that looks like, reviewing your progress every Friday, adjust your action plan as needed. It's kind of like you need to be your own leader. And so leadership begins with you. And so setting that in place. The nice thing about doing this, Matt, is when you create this for yourself, it makes it easier for you to then use that as you build your team, right? And I know you have great experience with that.
Well, I don't know where I saw it, but it really hit me. I don't know. I've seen this quote a million times, but it just hit me for some reason the other day. I think it was because I keep looking at, I keep probably like everyone in this room right now, where I'm waiting for, like, when am I going to be too busy to do the stuff that I want to do, right? Remember, like in 2020, 2021, I mean, right? I didn't have time to like eat
Yeah,
breakfast, right?
right.
But I got nothing but time. My boss is probably going to listen to this. I have lots to do, but there's rates are high enough right now. What if they drop to 5.8 or 5.7 tomorrow, right? All of a sudden we're going to be busy, and then 4.8 or whatever it might be. We're not going to have the ability the time or the ability to do a lot of what we're talking about right now. And the quote that I just saw is, without systems in place, you will never be able to scale.
Exactly.
Scalability requires systems.
Yep.
And if you are looking at it today and you can't tell me how do you manufacture a closed loan from start to finish,
Hmm.
and how can you scale that, you're going to be lost when rates drop. You're going to fall behind. And I love that. I don't know, a couple slides ago, you're talking about a virtual assistant. What can you task out to someone else to do for you so that you have the time to grow your business and
Yeah.
to focus on the growth? And so I know AI is going to be a big part of this. There's a lot of investors out there developing AI systems for their LOs. There's a lot of people out there trying to figure out how to I can, leverage the power of AI to expand my reach. All that stuff is happening today, not for today's business. This is happening for when business drops and rates drop and business is coming at you like, water out of a hose again, right? And you're not going to have time and you're going to fall behind if you're not doing this stuff today. Without systems in place, you'll never be able to scale. That's a matter of fact. Can't do it.
Yeah. And part of the review is part of the systems as well, having
Right.
that system in place, right? And so going through that, having an idea as far as your vision, what your day to day looks like, what your schedule looks like, what your system looks like is important. And creating that accountability as far as I need to become more disciplined and proactive in building relationships. I'll improve my time management, commit to daily business development activities. So going through this exercise, um, and really having an idea, what does your day to day look like? As you said, we have more time now, and hope it will not always be that way, and things always change. And as you start putting those systems in place, you can create your own success. I know people that are having record months in the midst of where, the rates are right now. So you can decide what that success looks like. But it does begin with the systems. It begins by having an idea of what your schedule looks like, committing to that schedule, committing to time, blocking those out, and then overcoming those. So the VA, it's like, what is stopping you from reaching your goals and dreams? Sometimes it's hiring a VA. And so I know we're going to have someone on the podcast who does a lot as far as training for loan officer assistants, and Irene Duford. And that's, it's like maybe you don't have some time to train someone. So it's like those are kind of things like what's keeping you from doing it and how do you overcome them? And so set an idea as far as what your schedule looks like. Your morning, start with 30 minutes of learning, reading or industry news, 10 minutes of goal setting. I've combined my workout and I listen to either podcasts or YouTube videos. I'm on a kick right now with leadership. I'm listening to my two that I listen to a lot right now is John Maxwell and Dan Sullivan. And then James Clear with Atomic Habits, I absolutely love. So that's when I'm, working out for 30 minutes, whether it's going for a walk on the treadmill, that's what I listen to. And it's funny, Matt, because when you do that and you listen to something positive like that, it gets you energized, right?
Well, um, I was I made a huge mistake of blocking off like 2 hours in the middle of my day. I'm like, I'm gonna make 2 hours with phone calls. I'm like, I don't have 2 hours to make phone calls
No.
in the middle of my day, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta take smaller bites. And so the other thing that I put into place, and this has been probably within the last 60 to 90 days, I don't look at my email for the first 30 or 40 minutes that I'm sitting at my desk. It just it bogs me down. It sometimes brings me down, right? And everyone's working at all hours of the day, and I can't start with other people's problems to begin my day.
Right.
I'll get to it. So I do my Wordle, and then I read a couple blogs, mortgage blogs. I'll go to a couple mortgage websites, check it out, what's going on, read financial news a little bit. So I spend about 30 or 40 minutes of my morning when I get to my desk. I'm just kind of, and then, putting pen to paper, like you said about, okay, I got to get these 3 or 4 things done today. You know what? Someone's popped into my head. I want to call them this afternoon. So I write all that down. And that's usually how I spend the first 30 or 40 minutes of my day to really kind of just get myself focused. But it's really made a difference for me not to begin my morning by opening my email and starting working on other people's problems.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, in our industry, we're great at being firefighters. And so
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, wait a little bit just to get to hop in there and take care of yourself. And that's important.
Yep.
And then, that did the time blocking. Yeah, no, but I mean, nobody has 2 hours. I don't have time for 2 hours, but you can, schedule. It's like, I have so much for this. For me, because I do a lot of, training and recordings of things, I don't schedule any of those calls on Monday or Friday. Monday and Friday are my days to get activities done. Now, I know if you're a loan originator, you can't do that, but you can still say, hey, I'm going to do my follow-up calls between 10 and 12, and then in the evening, whatever that is. And then review your progress each day and update your action plan. I love that you create your plan in the beginning, and then you can review it again in the evening for what needs to be done. And then spend some time, unwind with your family. This is from where we were in 2021, and I was actually at a live event in Oregon last week, and a lot of branch managers were there, and they were talking about how busy it was during 2021, and everyone said, never go back there again, because I had no life. And so that balance is important, and having that balance, unwind with the family, spend time, turn your phone off, then, and I think that's important to be able to do that as well in order to take care of yourself so you can be present when you're taking care of your business. And then part of your vision, keeping track of reaching those goals. What does the day to day look like? What's stopping you from reaching those? We covered. And then what you struggle with. I struggle with procrastination and I get distracted by non income producing tasks. I need to set clear priorities and hold myself accountable. You talked about that as far as, and you do a great job, Matt, about talking about your strengths as well as where your weaknesses are and where you
Oh,
struggle, and being
I
aware of that
have
is important.
I have so many weaknesses, so many. One of the things that I know that I do is I go into something full of gust, right? Full of wanting to get it done, and then like 2 days in, I'm like, oh my God, why did I say yes to this, right?
Yeah.
There's that aspect of it. Um, Work ethic is not necessarily the thing. It's just a matter of putting the time aside to get it from start A to start B. But one of my weaknesses that I did quickly identify is I like to do social media. I like to do videos. I like to do all the recordings. And early in my career, it was up to me to do all the editing of it. I know we talked about this, and it was the editing and the subtitles and all that other stuff, and posting it. It just and making it look good, putting an intro and an outro, the whole thing. I hate doing that. Like I couldn't do it. Like it just, and I was spending so much time that it demotivated me to try to even do anything new. So I kind of went dark for like a year and a half, and then you helped. And I found a kid down the street that does some, video editing because they're fantastic at it.
Yeah.
And it makes it a million times easier for me to do just like, hey, edit out all my mistakes and cut this down and put this outro in and put this intro in and make it go.
Yeah.
Right. And once I did that, I was all in again.
Yeah.
But I had to discover the fact that there are things that I don't want to do, even though I do like the finished product.
Yeah. And you
I can
shouldn't be doing, because it's not a good use of your time.
correct.
Yeah.
I got to offsource that stuff.
Yeah. So getting into that, what's stopping you from reaching those goals and what does that look like? And then another example as far as how to focus on that as far as reaching, I will block off time for revenue generating activities each morning before checking emails or social media, which you talk about that, right? What are the revenue generating activities? You said, I need to call so and so. That's a revenue generating activity, right? Those are things that are important. And then also, I'm big on accountability partners to keep on track. I have a couple of monthly calls with different like minded people. And we hold each other accountable. We help as far as, plans and growth and things like that. And I think that's important. If you are a business owner, especially, sometimes we get into this silo, and we're seeing that a lot. Um, especially with brokers. I recently took over the role of growth officer for NAM, the National Association of Mortgage Brokers, and I was having a conversation with someone the other day about people getting started in the business and having, as a broker, and this goes a lot into our non-dels as well, is having this, very siloed where it's like, I feel like I'm alone. And so having that accountability partner or even a group. That's one of the things, Matt, we're doing a session at NAM National, which if you're on this call or you're listening to this call, get to NAM National, get to some of these events that are going on, because then you're going to get to meet other people that are like-minded and you can build that group, which is important. So I think that's an area of focus to be able to work on.
Well, I've been doing this for 25 years now, and Ginger, you and I have had the pleasure of working together for a long part of that. The mortgage community has never been closer, in my opinion,
Mm,
right? Just
yeah,
the level of support amongst everyone that's out there, just realizing everyone's championing each other and everyone's really trying to make sure that we're all lifting each other up, right? I've seen it quite a bit. Especially over the last 4 or 5 years. But
yeah.
going back to the accountability, one of the things that I was talking to one of my young coworkers about, one of my young colleagues, he wanted me to be his accountability partner. I'm like, well, I'm your boss. I'm not your accountability partner, right? Like that, there's a difference there, right? Like I'm going to hold you accountable. You may not like the repercussions if you don't like it, but an accountability partner is there to lift you up and encourage you and to kind of keep you on task and to bounce ideas off of.
Yep.
And so just one of those, it's a very nuanced thing. You don't want accountability to be someone who is a management position to you, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a blurring of the line there.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I first started out as an account executive, I had two other account executives, and we created our group, and we would meet once a week. And we used to always say, it's like you could do one bitch and two brags. This is not a bitch session. This is an opportunity for you to have those goals, discuss those goals, have those plans, and be accountable and lift each other up. But you can talk about challenges. And so, what are the challenges? How are you going to overcome those challenges as well?
I got a great line for you, Ginger. I learned this one the other day. When someone says something, eh, maybe out of turn or sounds like they're a little frustrated, you go, is that frustration or is that feedback? Um,
Ah,
and if it's frustration, we're going to put it to the side. If it's feedback, let's explore. Don't do it with your wife, gentlemen. You're on this phone call. Don't do that. I learned that
I
lesson
know
real.
your wife. Yeah, that would not go well.
No, but is that frustration or feedback? That's a new one that I've just learned.
I love that. Oh, and then how are you going to measure your progress? And again, that goes back to having an idea what that end looks like and how you're going to measure that. I think this is an area that we miss out on. And guys, as leaders, it's important for you to have an idea on what growth looks like for yourself, for your organization, and to share that with your team. Because if you don't know where you're going, they certainly won't know where they're going. And if you don't share where you're going, they can't get on board. It's like putting people on a ship and having no idea what the destination is. It's like, where are we going? I don't know. When are we going to get there? Not really sure. But the bar's open. Have a good time. It's like people want to know where they're going to. So you need to have an idea. That's why it's so important to really put some time into this, put some thought into this, have an idea, take action today, refine your mission and vision. Even if you've done it before, refine it. Make sure it reflects you and your purpose, and then share it consistently with your team, with your clients, with your community. Let them know what you're doing. I was reading a study the other day, and actually NAM had shared this, and I'll find it and share it with you, Matt, but it talked about how organizations, companies are looking at maybe putting together, this is an interesting thought. You know how you have your 401k and you can contribute money to your 401k before taxes? So there's been some chat about doing the same thing for down payments in buying a home because affordability has become such an issue. And it's like, that's an interesting thing. If I was a loan originator, that I would look into maybe the option of that or the discussion of that, and I would take that to organizations in my community. Because what better way for them to build loyalty in their community than to build something like that? If nothing else, you can start doing some education in some of these organizations. So those are the kind of things to look about. And when you have an idea about your mission and vision, you can go into the community, go into organizations and share that. Then that becomes very powerful, right? And
I
then,
think I think that was actually the genesis of the president of FirstFunding. That's how he became the loyalty. I mean, he's been here for what, 19 years or 15 years or whatever it might be. Because I think part of the aspect of it was when they hired him, they were going to, some of his pay was going towards his student loans.
yes,
There's some genesis.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, there's some genesis of that, right? And so
yeah,
there's creative ways for you to drive that that for sure. That's a obviously a separate topic, but that's
yeah.
a excellent point.
Yeah, and look for those, and if I mean if that's a focus for you, honestly, guys, if it's a focus for you is building home ownership in your community, then that's what you need to be communicating. And that's what you need to lean into, and that's what you need to love and be a part of, and then just live it out every day in your business. So we're going to do a follow up. It looks like the chat is open. I see Sherry posted in there. Hello. So, hello, Sherry. If you have questions, let us know. We haven't had any questions as we went along. This was a recap, and we wanted to do this just to kind of pull all the pieces together that we've been covering over the last 7 months. For those of you who have been with us every time, we appreciate you being here. I know a lot of you are listening to the recordings. We have Nate, Matt, we have Nate in my mind because you were saying that. And so we have almost 200 that have registered for this series, and they get a copy of the recording and everything. So if you're listening to this, thank you for registering. And then our next webinar, which we're having in August, which will be on August 26th, it'll be leveraging AI in your mortgage business. And we have some really cool tools that you can use to help you in that productivity, to help you as far as creating those systems, all those things that we talked about. And of course, we want to thank you all for attending. And we look forward to continuing on the journey with you.
Thank you very much, Ginger. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. And we'll see you on the next webinar.